Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Passball Show, brought to you, as always, by JohnPielli.com. Today is the 19th day of December 2017. Of course, it's a Tuesday, and I'm glad to be back with you after a little bit of time off as I spent a better part of the past week at the Baseball Winter Meetings down in Orlando, Florida. Tons of stuff to get into in regards to that. Got a good show planned today. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL replay system, whether it needs to be changed, but we're going to spend a brief time on that because I really believe it's a simple matter of fact. And it goes back to one of the points that I've made many times on this program. A rule is a rule. I got potential trade proposals for the Yankees and the Mets. And I got to be honest, I'm just having fun with it. But I do think there's some good ideas to throw out there. And if something sticks to the wall, let it stick. But I think as we're in baseball's off season at a time where there really isn't a ton going on. I mean, you got the Yankees trading for Stanton. You got Shohei Ohtani signing with the Angels. You got some other deals here and there. Every middle reliever known to man has signed with somebody as the teams are looking to fortify their bullpens. Also got a message for America, and we're going to get into that as well as we get close to the actual holidays. And it's a very heartfelt message that I hope everybody gets a chance to listen to, and hopefully you can think about others and be considerate of others, even though you may be enjoying yourself. You may be having a great family get-together, but for some people the holidays are a reflection, and sometimes when the reflection's not positive, that's when they can use maybe a hand on their shoulder, maybe a call, maybe knowing that somebody is there for them and is willing to listen. And I'll talk a little bit about the baseball free agent blues and a little bit of the reason why we're at this point of the offseason, and an offseason that really is moving like none other, because we are sitting here on December 19th and there is literally nothing going on. We had the two big moves, like I said, Stanton and Ohtani. Outside of that, middle relievers, yes, you got the Phillies signing Carlos Santana, good for them. But outside of that, you have a lot of teams that have a lot of needs to address, and they haven't really come close to doing that yet. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. But I do want to throw a little recap out there. Baseball Winter Meetings, very good time down in Orlando, Florida. It's twofold for me when I'm down there. Number one, we're working on guests for the show. And I got to be honest, since we brought the show back, I haven't been as big in wanting to have a bunch of guests. But I do want to assure you, potentially starting tomorrow, we'll start to have some guests on the show, and people that I had a chance to catch up with and meet with and speak with at the Baseball Winter Meetings. Obviously, there are tons of people we could have on this show, and we're going to work that out. Obviously, some people have been on already. I do want to throw the phone number out there just to remind you, 732-364-3598. That's 732-364-3598. And if you are, you have a couple minutes, you want to call in, please do. Let me know what's on your mind. You want to talk about sports, you want to talk about baseball, you want to talk about how we can unify America. But I will say this, if you want to call and talk about unifying America, and the sense of your call is divisive in any way, and I don't mean divisive against me, please feel free. Call at me, say whatever you want to me. But if you've listened to the basis of this program, I'm talking about staying away from company or party lines. And I'm not here to get political. This show is not a political show. So if you want to come on this show and talk about how much you hate the president, or if you want to call on this show and talk about how much you love the president, bottom line is I don't want to hear either, because this is not a political show. Save that for your daily news. The stuff, the fodder that's being thrown in your face every single day of every week. Bottom line is we're talking about unifying America. We can't start to talk about unifying America if we're talking about partisan politics. If we're talking about Republicans and Democrats and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, we're not going to get anywhere. That's not unification talk. That's not talking about how we could unify the people of the United States of America. So please feel free, 732-364-3598, anything that's on your mind. We're going to start out by talking about the Baseball Winter Meetings. We do have some guests that we will have over the course of the week. I'll give a little bit of a tease when we get up close. Couple pretty good ones I'm pretty excited about having during the week. Bottom line, baseball winter meetings, kind of twofold. I go over there, like I said, I am looking to always build on the show, looking to meet and speak with more people, and of course, incorporating more voices onto this show than just my own. But also, for anybody that is interested in a career in baseball and wants to know how to get started. Obviously, you start out by maybe as a college student, you're majoring in sports management or something like that. But once you're done and you're ready, whatever it is, a real good place is to go down to the baseball winter meetings and set up different things. I wouldn't suggest go to the job fair per se. I mean, there are things that appeal to many people looking for jobs in the job fair, but I do want to warn you, if you think you're going to go to the job fair and get a job with a Major League Baseball team in their front office, it doesn't work that way. They're recruiting people by the thousands to try to get their next round of season ticket sellers. They're looking at people that are going to work in stadiums. They're going from security to concession stands. So these are entry-level type of positions, and they are available. So if that's something, if you're looking to just get your foot in the door, then sure, these job fairs would be very beneficial to you. But, and I've always said this, there's nothing that I know that I'm not willing to share with everybody else, because I think we could all learn from each other, and I think we could all take the time to try to listen to each other's experience. You want to get a job in baseball, you go to the baseball winter meetings and you meet with people, you introduce yourself to people, you network, and you know what, maybe have a little bit of testicular fortitude by going out and approaching somebody that you can recognize and going and talking to them and asking questions. It's something that the best way to do anything is just to go out there and get it. And in a situation like this, there are people that could potentially change your life. So if you're interested in doing it, I mean, I don't see why there aren't more people that are down at the baseball winter meetings. This is the 4th year that I've gone. I started down in San Diego 4 years ago, went to Nashville, went to Washington, D.C., and this past year was down in Orlando, Florida. And that's one of the things that baffle me. I mean, I see a lot more college students, which is good. I think the amount of people that are going there looking for jobs has increased over the last several years. But I tell you, just walking around the lobbies, I was surprised that there weren't as many people that were actively seeking to get involved, to get to know different people in different organizations and just asking questions. I think that's the best way to do it. But listen, even if it isn't baseball, if it's any sport, if it's any profession, the best way you have a chance of getting ahead and the best way you have a chance to getting a job that's close to what you dream of or what you aspire to do is by going out there and speaking with the people that are in that profession. But I do want to throw a couple thanks out there. As I was down in Florida, I was really blessed with the hospitality of some people that I've been lucky enough to know. But at the same time, for them to take the moment and help me out. First, of course, is my buddy Billy Staples, who is well-known baseball author. He's written 2 books, Billy Ball and Before the Glory. He's writing his 3rd book as we speak. He's gone back with me for years. We spent the last couple of years going down to the baseball winter meetings. So, everything that he's done, obviously he knows, I'll do everything I can to try to match what you've done for me. Former Major League pitcher Larry Sorensen was nice enough to, allow us to stay in his home. Great job by Larry and his wife Elaine. We certainly are very grateful of that. And Larry did an interview with me for, a good 15 minutes or so at his house. And you can check that. It's available on YouTube. It's also available on Periscope. It was actually the last video I recorded while I was down in Florida. So, thanks to Larry as well. And Ray Burris, former Major League pitcher, was nice enough to, help us out, pick us up from the airport, especially when our flight ended up getting delayed and eventually canceled. So thanks to Ray Burris as well. Amongst the different things I want to get into, and I'm going to hit on this topic real quick. We'll talk a little NFL, and you want to strengthen the conversation, you want to make it more NFL-centric, sure, call 732-364-3598. Get you right up there, anything that's on your mind. Like I said, the game with the Patriots and the Steelers ends up being decided on the no touchdown call and the no catch by the Steelers tight end late in that game. Looked like it was a clear completion as he comes across the middle, reaches for the goal line. You know, everybody that's watching it is probably thinking the same thing. Scoring play, it's automatically getting reviewed. All right, his hand reached over the goal line, so it's a touchdown. But no, as you look at frame by frame, you start to realize what it is that they're looking at. And they are looking at, obviously, whether he had possession. Now, possession now in the NFL is not the same as the possession rule as it existed years ago. Remember the Dez Bryant game? There's been many examples. You know, Safarian Jenkins and the Jets this year. Balls that look like they were caught, but when you go frame by frame like they do on instant replay, if there's any doubt over whether the receiver has possession, they're going to rule it not a catch. And they're going to rule it not a catch 100% of the time. The one thing that you hope when it comes down to the officials and the replay is for them to stay consistent within their rules. And they've been doing that. So I understand there's a lot of outrage. I understand there's a lot of people that are pissed off right now. And there's a lot of people that hate the New England Patriots that are just, wondering if the NFL has a set of rules that are there to cater to the New England Patriots. Listen, points could be valid up to a point. And trust me, everybody's entitled to their opinion. If you're a fan of a rival of the Patriots, or you're just a fan in general that's tired of seeing the Patriots win as often as they do, your natural reaction is to say that the refs ruled the game in favor of the Patriots, which I think is a little silly. I understand from a fan perspective, obviously fan stands for fanatic. I get it. The overreaction of fans is something that have existed in professional sports for years and will continue to exist in professional sports for years upon years from now. But we have to try to put things in perspective. Because when we talk about rules, and I'm not just talking about rules of the National Football League. I'm not talking about rules as they apply just to sports. Rules in general, they're set. I know we're in this society where we're almost like in an anarchy where we feel like we don't want to listen to anybody. Twisted sister, we're not going to take it. But the bottom line is, if it isn't for rules, there's no structure for anything. And rules, as they exist in the world of professional sports, are there for a reason. So whether you agree with the rules or disagree with the rules, you have to understand first of what the rules are. The rules state this. In the National Football League's case, the rule in regards to possession seems to hurt the receiver as he's going down to the ground. Because you know what? When your legs and your arms are moving and you got a ball between your two hands and it's not stuck in your chest, there's a good chance that ball is going to touch the ground. And if that ball touches the ground, you better make sure that you've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that you have possession of the football. If you don't have possession of the football, according to the rules, the way they're set right now, it's not going to be ruled to catch. And it's not going to be ruled to catch every single time. So we could watch, NFL next week and probably see a similar play. And the officials in the National Football League take more heat than officials in any other sport. I know we spent some time talking about baseball umpires. Yes. But baseball umpires don't have to deal anywhere near the scrutiny that the National Football League officials have to go through. There's a lot of subjective things that they have to call. Holding. Obviously, players are holding on to each other every single play. So when is it too much holding? Pass interference. You're watching a ball go downfield. You want to understand if there's a touch, or if it's a hold, or if it's outright interference. There's a lot on their plate. But week after week, people are going to continue to scrutinize and bastardize the job that the officials do in the National Football League. And I'm going to tell you this. One thing that I truly and wholeheartedly believe, the NFL officials are doing a good job in enforcing the rule the way it's written. And a lot of people may not agree with that. A lot of people may not want to hear that. And especially if you were rooting against the Patriots like a lot of other people were last week. The NFL officials take more abuse than any other officials in any other sport. And they deserve a little credit because they're enforcing this rule the way it's written. It's not supposed to be a subjective rule. It's not supposed to be only enforced in situations where there is no doubt about it. Now, over time, maybe this offseason, this rule could be addressed and can be changed. Sure. But now you're seeing the officials get abused for calling out a rule for what it is and going to the instant replay and judging exactly what a catch is. A catch in 2017 is not what a catch was in 2000. It's not what a catch was in 1980 or 1960. But it has been specifically defined. It's tough for a receiver, especially when he's going down to the ground. But he's got to prove that he has possession. And if he doesn't, it's not going to be ruled a catch. And I know this wasn't black and white. There were certainly some shades of gray in there with this particular catch in the Steelers-Patriots game. But when you're going frame by frame, like they're doing for instant replay, there was a bit of a hesitation or an instant where he may not have had full possession of the ball. Because of that, it's ruled not a catch. Obviously, the other side of it is, hey, you break the plane once you've secured possession of the ball, and it's a touchdown. So the other part would not have been an issue. But when we're sitting here bashing the NFL officials every chance we get, and a lot of people aren't happy even when they make the right calls, they're doing a good job enforcing this rule. And you know what? Maybe the fact that they're enforcing this rule as often as they are may lead the National Football League to at least discuss changing what the rule is. What is a catch? If you want to look at what happened in that game on Sunday and you decide that that should have been a catch or could have been a catch if the rules were changed a little differently, that's what the offseason is for. And maybe the fact that these plays are being more under the microscope now, and we're talking about them days after it happens, it may lead the NFL to do something a little more about it. But right now, the NFL officials who continue to get bashed and beat and disturbed and bullied, they're doing their job in this instance. They're calling the play for what the rule states that it should. Once again, John Pielli, Pass Ball Show, happy to be with you. 732-364-3598 is the phone number. You want to call in, be part of the show. I got a message for America and the holidays a little bit later. I did want to have a little bit of fun now. We're talking about possible trades, and I threw a scenario that could help both the Mets and the Yankees, and I'm not talking about trading with each other. I think the days of a blockbuster trade involving both New York teams, I don't think it's going to really happen. I mean, think about the trades that have happened between the two organizations in their history. Frank Tanana going to the Yankees. Robin Ventura getting traded for Dave Justice. Armando Benitez, right? I mean, you could come up with a lot of little trades that really didn't mean much of anything. So I look at the Yankees and what their best interest is right now. They're looking to probably shed some salary if they can. They traded Chase Headley to the San Diego Padres. They're looking for a pitcher. So they're probably... And here's, before I propose this trade, the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that I don't think the Yankees per se, absolutely without a doubt, need to add another starting pitcher. I mean, Luis Severino established himself as the ace of the staff last year. It looks like he's going to get even a little better. They brought Masahiro Tanaka back, who obviously opted into his contract as opposed to opting out. And Sonny Gray, with a couple more years left on his contract with the Oakland Athletics, was just traded to them last season. So you're talking about 3 starters that, if they're healthy, they should be legitimate. Do they have an absolute ace? Do they have a Kershaw or a Scherzer or a Chris Sale? Probably not. But I think any one of those 3 can go out there and win, 16 to 20 games or whatever the win barometer has changed to nowadays. They can throw 180 innings when we used to talk about 200 to 250. But I think their top 3 are pretty solid at this point. So do they need to go out there and get another number 1 starter? Somebody along that line? No, for 2 reasons. No, because I don't think they really need it. But no, also, because the Yankees are not willing to trade from the part of their farm system that's going to get them the type of pitcher that is an absolute ace. Chris Archer isn't coming to the Yankees for a pile of scraps. Garrett Cole is going to cost you something. Michael Fulmer is going to cost you something. So I think the Yankees, the way that they're set up, probably would prefer to hold on to Gleyber Torres, hold on to Chance Adams, hold on to Esteban Florial, hold on to Clint Frazier, even though he's obviously a little more expendable with the acquisition of Stanton. But the Yankees have spent a little time to put some younger players in their system, and they have top prospects that are all amongst the top 100 in all Major League Baseball. The Yankees want to hold on to them. They made it very clear. They haven't shown any signs to make a trade like that that's going to involve any one of those top guys. And if they're going to make a trade for a starting pitcher, and like I said, you could go out there and you could get yourself the equivalent to a Jaime Garcia like they got last year. You could trade for somebody like that and not give up very much. Yeah, they could have traded for Matt Moore, who obviously ended up going over to the Texas Rangers. Deals like that would not have cost you very much. But if you're looking for a frontline starter, somebody that would no doubt be the Yankees' 1 or 2 starter once they traded for him, you're going to have to give up some elite chips. Chris Archer's not coming to the Yankees for Mason Williams. He's not going to the Yankees for Austin Romine and Adam Warren. The famous Adam Warren and Brendan Ryan package. It's not going to work to get Chris Archer. So I thought about something the other day, and I know I've heard bits and pieces of commentary on this, but this is something that I think really could help the Yankees. The Yankees have been trying like heck to unload salary to put themselves in a position where they could spend a little more freely in the 2018 going into 2019 offseason. Obviously, if they get themselves by the end of the year, their payroll to be $197 million or under, they'll free themselves up. It'll reset their cycle, and then they can go out and overblow it, go up to $300 million, $400 million if they want to. But they have to get themselves under 197 if that's going to be possible. Now, their interest, regardless of how I feel about it, is still out there to bring in a legitimate starting pitcher. They've talked to the Pirates about Garrett Cole. There's at least been some thought that they're interested in pursuing Michael Fulmer if he's available from the Detroit Tigers. And I think if you're going to make a trade like that, it would start with the thought of Gleyber Torres. Now, if you're a Yankee fan, or if you follow the Yankees, or if you are the Yankees, you probably don't want to move on from Gleyber Torres. The trade of Starlin Castro, the trade of Chase Headley, opens up both second base and third base for Torres to play next season. And if the Yankees are smart, they wouldn't trade him. And I don't think they will. That being said, we look at a couple other players that they may be willing to trade. And I really think it's going to take 2 of these 3. If the Yankees are looking if they're looking to make a deal here, because to get a starting pitcher like a Cole, like a Fulmer, like an Archer, you're going to have to entice the trading team to want to do business with you. And it probably will cost two top prospects if they're going to be able to make a trade like this. So guys that I think of, and obviously if you're a Yankees fan, you probably feel like you can make a deal that involves Clint Frazier. Now, you have to be careful with that because Frazier is an outfielder, and a lot of teams are pretty good in regards to outfielders. So if you're going to make a trade for Garrett Cole, I don't know if Clint Frazier is necessarily the piece that should be going back to the Pirates. They still got Andrew McCutchen. They still got Starling Marte. They still got Gregory Polanco. They still got Austin Meadows. They got quite a bit of teams, of outfielders that are set for them to play. So why would you add another outfielder to the mix, especially a major league ready outfielder like Clint Frazier? It wouldn't make sense. Now, if you're a Yankees fan, you say, sure, absolutely. Clint Frazier has no use with the Yankees. You got Stanton and Judge, who you're trying to figure out who's going to play left field next year. Brett Gardner's still there. Aaron Hicks is still there. Jacoby Ellsbury's still there. So there's no room for Clint Frazier. So for the Yankees, it makes perfect sense. It's most convenient to the Yankees and their fans to trade Clint Frazier. But you gotta, I've said all along, it is about making fair trades in baseball. At least on paper, they gotta look like they make some sense. That the team you're making a deal with feels like they got something good out of it. And Clint Frazier may be a star. He may be. And if he turns out to be good for him, you can have 3 outfielders or 4 outfielders, and if Frazier becomes a star, he is supplanting one of those players. I get it. But if the Yankees are going to make a trade for a starting pitcher, and I'm talking about Fulmer in particular here, because I don't think there's a match with Garrett Cole. Unless you're going to make a deal that involves Gleyber Torres, which I don't think the Yankees should have any right to even think about. They got Justice Sheffield. They got Chance Adams. They got Estevan Florial. You're 2, 3, and 4 prospects. And I think if you're going to make a trade like this, you're going to have to certainly center it around one of them and maybe 2. And if you get away with it, and maybe you go down the list a little bit and maybe trade a Dylan Tate or a Tyler Austin, and you trade maybe one of the 3 that I just mentioned, an Adams, a Florial, or a Sheffield in a trade, you'll probably be able to make a deal. I mean, if they traded, let's say they were dealing with the Pirates, and they offered Chance Adams, maybe Miguel Andujar, and Dylan Tate, that might be enough to do it. But I'm taking this prospective deal and throwing another layer on it. The Yankees are trying to get under the luxury tax threshold. They have a center fielder by the name of Jacoby Ellsbury, who they would do anything to be able to get off of their ball club. The value of Ellsbury's contract is not worth it for any team to pick up. But if you could add something to it that makes it worthwhile, you can get a team to take on Jacoby Ellsbury and his contract. And you know what that is? It's another prospect. You take another one of the 3 that I just mentioned, Adams, Florial, Sheffield, and use them as the reason to entice the other team to take Jacoby Ellsbury, you may have a deal. And I'm talking particularly with the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers are looking to rebuild. They're looking to get themselves in a better position through their farm system. They're looking to probably take a couple years before they get back to competing hardcore and being a playoff team again. They want to add some prospects. they could be willing, and I haven't seen any indication that they were definitely shopping him, but they could be willing to listen on Michael Fulmer. But if you're the Yankees, you got to be aggressive if this is the player that you want. As we hit the halfway point right here on the Pass Ball Show. Once again, this is John Pielli. Happy to be with you guys. 732-364-3598. We're talking a little baseball right now. Michael Fulmer, if the Tigers do decide to trade him, they're obviously not going to give him away. There's no need, even especially for the next couple of years, for the Tigers to feel the need to trade him. So if you're the Yankees and you want to get in on this, if you're interested, you have to start with a legitimate prospect. And like I said, throw Chance Adams in there. And then add a couple smaller pieces, whether it's Andujar and a Dylan Tate. And you want to expand the deal a little bit to include Jacoby Ellsbury. Because I know if you're a Yankees fan, you're dying to see the Yankees get rid of Jacoby Ellsbury. He doesn't really have a role on this team. He might be able to help them. You play him every day in center field. Maybe he puts up some numbers that are close to what he did, in his last season with the Boston Red Sox. Sure. If you're a Yankees fan, you're probably going to root for him. But you don't really need Jacoby Ellsbury. So how does Ellsbury get involved in this trade? Ellsbury and his contract with a prospect. And it can't be a half-ass prospect. It can't be somebody that's, 20 through 30 in your farm system. It's going to have to be another top guy. So let's say he's settled on Chance Adams and Andujar and Dylan Tate for Michael Fulmer. And you want to throw Jacoby Ellsbury in there as well. Consider Ellsbury as if he was going to the Yankees, and you have to give up something to get rid of him. So if you told the Tigers, we'll throw in Justice Sheffield, or we'll throw in Estevan Florial, in exchange, we're going to give you Jacoby Ellsbury and you're going to assume the rest of his contract, I think Alaville is going to listen. I think you might make a trade. Yankees get Michael Fulmer. Yes, in the end, it's costing you 5 players, but you're also getting the salary relief of not having Jacoby Ellsbury on your team. The Tigers take on the entire contract. I think it's a win-win. Yankees are looking to get under the luxury tax threshold. They would prefer for Jacoby Ellsbury and the amount of money that he's making year upon year to not be on this team. You want to trade Jacoby Ellsbury? Grab one of your top prospects and say, hey, you could have, if you take Ellsbury, you could have this prospect too. And I bet you're going to have some teams that are going to at least consider it. Especially after what happened with the Braves and the Dodgers this past weekend. Blockbuster deal with Matt Kemp going back to the Dodgers in exchange for Adrian Gonzalez, Brandon McCarthy, Scott Kazmir, and Charlie Culberson. A complete and utter salary insinuated trade. So if you're looking to move salary, and obviously you watch the Los Angeles Dodgers, who obviously in a world of big markets are the Yankees' biggest competitor, swing a deal where they could get under 197 at the end of 2018, then the Yankees should be considering doing something similar. Now, if you want to be creative, or as creative as Farhan Zaidi and Andrew Friedman were with the Dodgers, you talk about 40-something million spread over 2 years as opposed to 40-something million coming off in 1 year. Maybe the Yankees could do something similar. But they're going to have to get a lot more creative with that. But the Yankees have some strength in their pitching staff. Like I just said, like I started this segment by talking about. Severino, Tanaka, Gray, Sabathia back for another year, Jordan Montgomery. And if they're making a trade for another good starter like Michael Fulmer, you put Fulmer at the top of the rotation, you have Severino, Tanaka, and Gray, and Sabathia is your 5th starter. Why do you need absolute top pitching prospects. Where are they going to pitch? You'd be in the same spot as if you were talking about Clint Frazier in the Yankee outfield the way it exists right now. Stanton, Judge, Gardner, Hicks, Ellsbury in center. Where's Clint Frazier going to play? Same thing you would say if you brought in a Fulmer type to top the Yankees rotation. Fulmer, Severino, Gray, Tanaka. Who cares who your fifth starter is, but you still got CeCe back for another year. Why do you need top pitching prospects? And if you could make this deal and remove yourself from the obligation of Jacoby Ellsbury's contract, I don't see why you wouldn't consider it. So my proposal, Michael Fulmer to the Yankees from the Tigers. In exchange, the Tigers will get either Adams or Florial. Maybe they want their top pitching prospect. Maybe they want their top, one of their top outfield prospects. Chance Adams. The two players I mentioned before, Andujar and Dylan Tate, and Jacoby Ellsbury. You're going to have to pay a lot. And I'm not talking about money here if you want to get Jacoby Ellsbury off the Yankees payroll. And if you look at the details of that Braves-Dodgers trade, and you see a trade that's made that's salary-driven, it shows that the Yankees could probably work something out if they wanted to. Now, the Yankees are not looking to take back another contract like that because it's not going to do them any good. There are plenty of bad contracts throughout Major League Baseball. Ask everybody who has employed Matt Kemp since he signed that big deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers years ago. Ask the Padres. Ask the Braves. Ask the Dodgers again. There's bad contracts out there. And you could find one that you could conveniently swap for Jacoby Ellsbury's if you want, but the Yankees aren't going to be in a better position with the other player on the bad contract. So the only way that you can move this contract and not have to take on another bad one is if you include a prospect. And not just any prospect. It's going to have to be a guy that's in your top five. And that's going to have to be the equivalent of Ellsbury in another deal. I mean, you can't make a trade Jacoby Ellsbury and a top prospect for nothing. So it would have to be part of some other trade. So I think the Yankees and Tigers could be close if it's possible. If the Tigers are interested, and of course if the Yankees are willing to pay the price. Once again, John Pielli, happy to be with you. 732-364-3598. 6 to 7 p.m. We'll be on with you today, tomorrow, all the way through Saturday as we get close to Christmas Eve on Sunday. So, I wanted to humor my audience here. I wanted to have a little fun because the New York Mets offseason is pretty similar to a lot of other teams. And I hope I have a little time to talk about this after I propose this fun trade. A lot of teams in baseball are waiting for their offseason to get started. How come this offseason has taken so much longer to get going than other ones in the past? And I think a lot of it has to do with the analytical data that's out there for Major League Baseball teams. Instead of using the eye test in regards to their scouts, they got algorithms and theorems and stuff that they've put together into these different formulas, and they have determined the type of stats that they're looking for. So if you go back to Billy Beane and Moneyball with the Athletics, he says, hey, if we have an average of 355 or 360 in regards to our on-base percentage, 1 through 9 in our order, it should help us out. Doesn't matter what the player is, divide it by 9 and have it be 3.6, 0.36 or something like that. So these analytical guys are putting together these theories. Say, hey, you know what? If we get 20 home runs out of 9 spots in our batting order, doesn't matter how we get them, we should be pretty good. So do they necessarily need to come from the bat of J.D. Martinez? Do they necessarily need to come from the bat of Eric Hosmer? The answer is no. And baseball teams have found a way to get home runs from guys that aren't necessarily making a lot of money. Mitch Moreland had a very good year with the Boston Red Sox. Not a lot of people really noticed. But the Red Sox did. Their analytical guys got together and say, hey, Mitch Moreland hitting 20, 24 home runs is going to cost a lot less than signing Eric Hosmer, who, by the way, had a pretty similar season. So teams, especially when it comes to offensive position players, are using numbers as a dictator over what it is that they're looking for. So the players that normally cost a lot more money, they're getting those numbers supplemented for a lesser cost. So teams that would be interested in bringing in a big-time player are finding cheaper means to do it. And the ones that haven't made the decisions yet are still weighing the options, saying, you know what, we can make this same type of impact for our baseball team and spend a lot of less money. And if we spend a lot of less money, it'll allow us to address our bullpen, to add another starting pitcher, to strengthen our bench. So and listen, I think over time, the top salaries of baseball players, position players first, for the reason that I just said, and starting pitchers, because of their lack of value now, because of the bullpenning, the team's spending a lot of money in the back end of their bullpens because they know their starters aren't going to go very deep. So why would you pay a starting pitcher $30 million anymore if they're only going to go 6 innings, or if they're getting taken out one batter into the 6th inning? There's no reason for it. So I think because of that, big-time salaries, I think, will start to drop a little bit. And over time, you're going to see these smaller salaries kind of grow up grow a little more. That guy that's hitting 20 or more home runs that normally wouldn't be considered to be worth that much is going to be worth a little more. So teams will start competing with each other, and eventually, the supply and demand situation will force teams to spend a little more than they would want for those players that you may say right off the bat are marginal, maybe slightly above average. Certainly not an all-star, certainly not a game breaker, certainly not a guy that you would say would absolutely be my number 3 or number 4 hitter. But when the demand starts to be increased for this type of player, the salary is going to go up. And I think conversely, when you look at that top player that could command 25 or 28 or 30 million a season, when teams are finding different ways to supplement that offense, or when it comes to pitching, when teams are investing so much in their bullpen, they're not going to want to spend $30 million on that player. So I think there is a little bit of a standstill in regards to teams thinking, hey, maybe the approach right now is to wait a little bit, to don't be so aggressive. And I think in the end, you're going to see some players that were up on the top of the echelon when it comes to baseball's free agents signing for a little bit less than we initially would have anticipated. Does that mean J.D. Martinez isn't going to get, $150 million? Does it mean that Eric Hosmer is not going to get $150 million? They still may. All it takes is one. But at some point, you got Mitch Moreland with the Red Sox addressing a need. You're going to see a lot of other signings that trickle out where different teams are going to address different needs with lesser type of players. So the market for a J.D. Martinez is going to get a little more narrow. The market for Eric Hosmer is going to get a little more narrow. And once that happens, you could potentially see them end up getting in their next contract a little bit less money than we all would have anticipated. So there's that point, and then the point of why the offseason's running so slow. And it's for the same reason. Why do you think that there hasn't been much action in regards to starting pitchers? Seems like almost every reliever out there has been signed. Because teams are trying to stock up. Teams that have good relievers are adding to it. The competition for those late game relievers is as strong as it's ever been because everybody's on the same page. No offense to Jake Arrieta or Alex Cobb or Lance Lynn. They're all good pitchers. And they likely will help the teams that they go to. But nobody's knocking on the door for a 6th-inning pitcher right now. 6th-inning pitchers are a dime a dozen. Even a worse team has a guy that can go out there and maybe pitch 6 innings for you. You want to pay $200 million for that? You want to pay $100 million for that? What is the value on that? What is the value on your average 6th-inning pitcher now? Because if anybody's paying $100 million for that over the course of however many years, you might end up regretting it. Once again, John Pielli, and we'll move into Manny Machado. And Manny Machado, I think there's a chance that he could be traded, but I also think the Baltimore Orioles could very well hold on to him. If they decide to do that, good for them. I think they should make a run out of it in 2018. I don't think they should quit. I think they should be open-minded to re-sign the guy. I mean, he's 24 going on 25 this year. I mean, would it really hurt the Baltimore Orioles to make this guy their franchise player? If they don't want to do it, then yeah, maybe they should trade him. But the problem is you're dealing with a 1-year rental situation. So whoever ends up trading for him, whether it's the Cardinals, whether it's the Red Sox, whether it's the Giants, whatever team wants to get in there and take on Manny Machado for 1 year, take a shot at winning the 2018 World Series, whatever team's doing that understands that they may have to pay a little bit more than they want to for a player that odds are is going to go to the highest bidder after the season. So once that happens, whatever you invested in a trade, you end up losing. So the Orioles should probably feel like they have the right to get something back. So I proposed this deal with the New York Mets. And I told you, this is obviously, kind of joking around here. So please don't take me seriously. But if the Mets, let's say they wanted to make a big splash, wanted to bring Manny Machado in, play him at third base with Amed Rosario at shortstop, I'm sure the premise of that idea would resonate very well with any Mets fan. That point of it by itself. And anybody may say, oh, well, I wouldn't want to trade anything for a guy that's going to be a free agent. Let's say the Mets did. And they traded Steven Matz and Seth Lugo and either Andres Jimenez or Luis Guillermo, who are both very good infield prospects that they have in their farm system. They get Machado back. The Mets increase their chances of winning in 2018. And honestly, they traded out of the strength, or would have traded out of the strength of their starting rotation. Still having DeGrom, still having Syndergaard. You're still taking a shot on Harvey, who's probably worth more to you than he is for anybody else right now. You could see by any trade proposal that the Mets may have made, whether it was with Baltimore or Texas or whoever else was considering making a deal with the New York Mets. So you still have Harvey, Zach Wheeler's there, Gesellman. You sign another starting pitcher to go in a mix and be maybe your third or fourth starter. And then all of a sudden you got Manny Machado playing third base. The team certainly is marketably better. Maybe you win with him. Maybe Machado endures himself to New York. Or maybe, and this applies to any other team that may consider making a trade for Manny Machado, maybe you get him to consider an extension with an early opt-out. That's how the Mets got Yoenis Cespedes. They signed him to a 3-year, $75 million contract with an opt-out after year one. Maybe with Machado, it's an opt-out after year 1 or year 2 or something like that. But if you could hold on to him for one more year, maybe you sign him to a 6-year, $180 million contract with an opt-out after year 1. So you get him through 2018 and you get him through 2019. And odds are he'll opt out at that point. But he still gets to hit free agency in the prime of his career. Or maybe right before the prime of his career. He could get that 10-year contract at age 27 or 26. It makes sense. But like I said, to me it's tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of a joke, trying to have some fun. I know Mets fans are, have to be miserable right now in regards to this offseason, because all you're really hearing about is how the Mets don't seem to have any money. And the ownership is essentially saying, hey, we're not spending. Good luck putting together a team. So you're looking at a team that made the World Series in 2015 and a postseason again in 2016. You have a team right now that's looking like they may not be very competitive this year. Or, at the very least, they're going to need things to go almost perfect. Perfect on the field, perfect health-wise, if they're going to be competitive in 2018. So we've spoken about quite a bit of things. The NFL replay, the Yankees potential trade, a Mets potential trade, the free agent blues, why we haven't seen so much free agent movement so far as we sit here on the 19th of December 2017. And I'm going to close it with this. As we get set for this next week, regardless of what you believe, and for those that celebrate Christmas with me, Merry Christmas. There's a lot, excuse me, there's a lot going on in people's minds because the holidays can be very stressful. And while everybody who is okay, and particularly financially, is able to enjoy the holidays, is able to enjoy getting presents for their loved ones, enjoys doing shopping for all those around them, enjoys the sharing of the gifts amongst the people that mean the most to them in their lives. There's a good amount of people that look at the holidays and they dread them. There's a lot of people that look at the holidays as a reflection of their past year or their past couple of years or their life up to that point. And not everybody is happy. Not everybody has a lot of money. And for those that aren't happy and don't have money this time of year, there's a lot of negativity going on inside the head. And I think it's just as important to make sure you reach out to those you love and make sure you go out there and do your shopping. But what's even more important than that is to look into your inner circle and think of those that may not be very happy right now, that may not be as fortunate. Give them a call. Tell them that you love them. Spend some time with them. For the single father or the single mother that has, a couple kids and can only afford a couple gifts and is worried about what the children are going to say when Christmas comes and there's nothing much under the tree. You never really know what's going on in their head. How bad are they taking this? You realize the latter part of December, there's the highest percentage of suicides as opposed to any other time of the year. And that's because, number one, it's the end of the year, but number two, it's the holidays. And it's a reflection on where you've come in a year, where you've been the last couple of years. And when everybody is out celebrating, some people can't deal with the fact that they're in a low place. And I just think it's very important that we go out there and we try to get the message out there. Put our arms around each other. Give our friends a call. Check in on all your friends. Because you know what? You may have some friends that you think are okay that aren't. And I'm not saying give them money if you don't have it. But offer them some comfort. Offer them some kind words. Offer them some company. Because you never know how the smallest conversation can lead to something that could save somebody's life. Or that conversation that you miss. I tell you, it'd be very regretful to be at that person's funeral talking about what could have been done. Once again, the end of December, highest suicide rate as opposed to any other time during the year. So please, be conscious of that. As you get ready to enjoy your holidays, however you plan on celebrating them, with your loved ones, with your friends, think about those that may not be as fortunate and are within an arm's shot or a phone call. And if you really care about that person, make sure they know it. Make sure they know that they have an ear to talk to. Make sure they know that they have an arm that's around them if they're going through a tough time. Please, just be careful. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, my interviews with Steve Swisher and Larry Sorensen, and then a couple questions I asked Steve Phillips while I was down in Florida are available on YouTube and Periscope. So if you haven't gotten a chance to watch them yet, feel free. We'll be back with you tomorrow, 6 to 7 p.m., right here on Periscope and Facebook Live, and available on replay through YouTube. Be back at you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as we get ready for the holidays. God bless you, and as always, I'll see you on the other side.
Rock over London, rock on Chicago.